Huawei, a company that's become more popular here in the States thanks to their flagship spec yet moderately priced Android phones, they even made the 6P, the last Nexus, by the way, has made it clear that they don't want to just make phones. Last year they launched their first ever laptop, the Huawei Matebook, but this year they've expanded the lineup. They have the Matebook D, which is their lower end model, the Matebook E, which is now their successor to the 2-in-1 original Matebook, and the X, which is their top tiered model. The Matebook X, which is the one that I personally am interested in because I think it looks really cool, also happens to be the one that I have here. So let's see how the phone manufacturer did, shall we? First up, the biggest thing about this laptop and what drew me to it in the first place is the design. It's beautiful. It's made out of aluminum, and with these machined edges that look pretty slick, it's quite the looker. When closed, the laptop is just 12.5 millimeters thick, is smaller than a standard piece of printer paper, and it weighs just 2.3 pounds, making it not only a nice looking laptop, but also super portable. Okay, so first let's get this out of the way. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. It looks very much like the 12-inch MacBook. They even gave it color options of rose gold, gold, and space gray. Yes, they even called it space gray. Regardless of Huawei's inspiration, in the PC world at least, it's hard to think of this laptop's equal. The laptop itself just looks and feels premium. And as I've complained about before, Windows needs more laptops that feel like that. Sitting at a cafe with it, you definitely get curious looks for sure. The screen of the device continues that look and feel. It features a 13-inch IPS 2K display, which is super bright and has some of the smallest bezels for a laptop this small and light, except maybe the Dell XPS 13-inch with its Infinity display. But it's because of these small bezels that they can squeeze this 13-inch screen into what is essentially more like a 12-inch laptop. Now, along with the nice screen, Huawei worked with Dolby to put a really nice set of speakers in here too. Set just under the screen, these Dolby Atmos speakers are actually super loud and crisp for such a tiny laptop. The keyboard is awesome to type on as well, with its large chiclet style keys that have a decent amount of travel to them, are backlit and have that same metallic look as the rest of the device to, keep that theme going. The trackpad is also on point. It thankfully has a Windows Precision trackpad, which is an important distinction whenever you buy a Windows laptop, by the way. Windows Precision trackpads are essentially a standard that allows Windows to interpret the mouse input instead of the manufacturer of the touchpad, which then translates it to Windows. Essentially what it does though is it allows for a much smoother integration, a much smoother trackpad, as well as the use of gestures in Windows, which I use a lot and I like. They remind me of a Mac. I like them. Also, as Windows gets updates itself, the trackpad can get those updates as well. Like the Creator update added some features for the trackpad. That's just all instant when you have one of these precision trackpads. You don't have to wait for the manufacturer to then update the drivers, etc. Now, when I first turned on the laptop, the trackpad actually felt super awkward. And when I would move my finger around too much, it would just stop moving randomly. But I went into settings and I turned the trackpad speed all the way up, and that actually solved it. After that, I have to say this is one of the few Windows trackpads that I can use comfortably without an external mouse. It responds fine to my scrolling and gestures and is a clickable trackpad, which I prefer as well. Above the keyboard to the right, we have the power button that also doubles as a fingerprint sensor to log you into the computer. Now, since the device doesn't have the infrared camera to be able to utilize facial recognition, this is going to be your preferred way to unlock it. And once you register your finger, it actually ends up being even faster than the facial unlock I've used on other Windows machines. Also similar to the 12-inch MacBook, the device is very limited on ports, although technically it has twice as many as the MacBook. There are two USB-C ports, one on the left next to the headphone jack that can be used for power and data, and one on the right just used for data. And the thankfully included, in some markets at least, Mate Dock 2, which is a dongle that has a USB-C port, HDMI, and a VGA port. Under the hood, we have the option of an Intel i5 processor or an i7. both are the U variety, along with a standard 8 gigs of RAM and no other options, and an Intel HD 620 GPU regardless of the processor that you choose. And while that's not the recipe for a gaming beast, which no one should be expecting this to be, it's not bad. Now, since we all love benchmarks, here's how the i7 model that I have here did on Geekbench 4 and some comparable models. Another thing that solidifies this as a great ultra portable is the battery life. I managed to sit and work in a cafe all day without needing to plug in, and compared to my, albeit much more powerful Razer Blade, it's a great feeling knowing I don't have to rush back to charge. On average for my type of use, I saw at least 6 hours of constant use, which is great in my book. Not as good as a MacBook or even some of the other laptops in this price range, you know, the Dell XPS 13 or the Asus ZenBook, but good. The pricing for the US versions of these was actually just announced today, and it's the i5 256 gig version for $1,099 and the i7 512 gig version for $1,299, which are not cheap by any means, but are actually quite competitive. To put that into perspective, the Dell XPS 13 with similar specs and the Asus ZenBook, you're looking at closer to an extra $300 for either of those. And just for the heck of it, since no one is actually deciding between a Windows and Mac option, probably, the 12-inch MacBook would cost almost $500 more. There really isn't a lot of bad things I can say about this laptop, if we're being honest. Basically, if you're someone that needs an ultra portable laptop with good battery life, a great screen, great audio, and has snappy performance, along with the fact that you might be somebody that wants something with more attention to detail, that's more well built, and just feels good and premium to use, then there's a very short list of Windows laptops that check all of those boxes. And frankly, this one, it needs to be towards the top of that list. There you guys, let me know what you think of the Matebook X review, of me doing reviews in general. Let me know in the comments below. Always love to hear from you guys. If you did like this video though, please thumbs up it or share it. It is greatly appreciated. And if you want more videos like this, check out my channel. There's a link around here somewhere. If you like what you see there, please subscribe. Also, even if you are subscribed, please do me a favor and make sure that you click on the bell next to the word subscribe on my channel. This will give you notifications so that you can know when I do new videos. It would be greatly appreciated if you could do that. As always though, thanks for watching.